Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WYTV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina. I love entrepreneurs and authors and real estate moguls and millionaire coaches and people from every walk of life that have discovered their reason for being on this planet. And that's why I love Krisstina Wise. She's all of those things and the founder of Good Life Companies with 3 distinct brands created to help people live a good, and I might add, happy life. Hey, Krisstina, it's great to finally have you on the Something Significant show.
Well, it's such a pleasure to be here. And I knew you and I connected when you were Mr. Happy and we're wandering around Paleo FX, happy and healthy and looking even how to optimize more. So it's really fun, this full circle, to be here with you today.
Terrific. That was about 2 years ago, if you can believe it.
I know it.
Well, great. Well, tell us what you're doing these days to leave your mark of significance on the world.
Yeah, significance, isn't that just such a powerful world? Like it's really an abundance word. So when we're looking at abundance and significance, I almost like the word significance more than abundance, because abundance just means almost, people have a tough time connecting with what that might mean. But being significant and having significance, really surplus, it means better than, and just it has such, I think, gravitas and meaning to lives. And so significance to me, I think it's the same. You hit all the different categories, but significance and health, and just having, like you say, the capacity and health, significance in relationships, just feeling that, that they're meaningful, they're deep, they're real, they're rewarding, they're loving, that full of love. And then significance in my work, which that's just when you have the privilege of doing what you love, and it really is your life's purpose, then, that's ultimate significance, because, by virtue of being significant, we get to live significant. We can help others be significant. So it's quite the ripple effect.
Bingo, bingo. Okay, well, take us back in time, let's say to 2008. And what I want to know is, what was the catalyst for your decision to leave the traditional real estate model and take a big risk, put out your own shingle, and start your own firm called Good Life Realty?
Yeah, so back in the day, I've really had 2 lives. There were my real estate career days, and then there's what I do today. And both of those really happened on really significant pivots. And in the 2008, when I left the traditional real estate industry, I loved to create my own firm, and I did very well, but it became like the innovation stopped. Everything became more about status quo and protection and following the rules. And so the more innovative or creative or free or inspired that I tried to, things I tried to do at the time to kind of break outside the mold of the industry, I got shut down and shut down and shut down. So it was really just a matter of, if it was a big risk, it was a huge risk when I left. But it was a matter, like, I didn't have a choice. Either I could stay safe and play it safe and really play underneath that very safe umbrella, or I could go be me and I could shake up the industry and I could do what I felt I was compelled to do. And I did it right before the real estate industry crashed. And so it wasn't the best time, but it didn't appear to be the best time, but then it ended up being the best time. But it's mostly just going back to significance again, is that when we're not fully expressing who we are and what we're supposed to do, like what we're called to do, and lean into that, it's scary as hell. But if not, then I think we start to atrophy and we start to shut down, and we play it safer and safer. Yeah. And I don't know, to live full life, full out. I mean, certainly there's some safety measures, but we can't always play it safe.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, let's look forward let's say 10 years. How do you expect to be impacting the world in 2030 and beyond?
Yeah, well, it's funny, I'll just I know there's a real estate, but then in 2013, that's really relevant, I think, to your format here, is that I was on an achievement path. So I did very well during kind of 2008 to 2013, left my old company, created my own real estate brand and brokerage, national identity. I was an icon in my industry. And I was really at the top nationally. I mean, I was known as a disruptor. I sat on boards of the largest real estate tech companies in the world today that everybody's familiar with. And I was very sought after as that kind of innovator, disruptor, technology thinker. And when I was at the height of my career, what happened, with a lot of what you talk about, uh, when we change because of destruction or inspiration. Well, I had an enormous health crisis. And so I nearly died and had to fight for my life for 2 years. And what happened on my deathbed, kind of metaphorically and literally, was the big wake up. Is that I was such down the linear path, the achievement path and chase success path. And no matter where I wasn't enough path. And it was a very addictive, adrenaline, never is enough type energy that was hustle, hustle, hustle all the time. But like I said, it nearly killed me. So it's really on the, all the awareness and the awakening and the lessons and the cleanup. And it just changed me inside out, like who I was during that healing journey. So healing journey was a physical healing journey and also a spiritual one. And I think healing journeys are spiritual.
What was back when you were thriving in your career and then you got sick? How did you get sick? What happened?
Yeah, so I'd actually been sick for a while. I just didn't know it. Part of that entrepreneurial, just go full momentum all the time. I mean, there were all sorts of red flags, but I just ignored them. I mean, I was running marathons and triathlons and training for Ironmans. I mean, I was just full out in everything. And I didn't even know that anything was wrong. So, I mean, the funny thing is, not funny, haha, but just funny, like ironically, is that I did a keynote performance to thousands of people in my industry. And it was the biggest conference of, the entire year. Every year was this one. I was one of the keynote speakers that spoke against, spoke with very famous people on stages. So I had this performance. I was a keynote speaker, invited in. I landed this performance like a Broadway play. I'd practiced it, standing ovation. It was a highlight of my career. And as I'm walking off the stage, I had this thought that in my head, like, Krisstina, you have made it. Girlfriend, you can name your price now, all this hard work, everything. I mean, everybody was clamoring for me. I nailed it. And that was the thought in my head as I was walking off the stage. And like within minutes after the adrenaline wore off, I had this really weird feeling that was indescribable. And that thought was, holy cow, something is really wrong. But I mean, it's like the kid with perfect attendance. I never got sick. So for me to get sick, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even have a doctor. So ultimately, long story, within days, I was bedridden and couldn't get out of bed. And it was a rough ride from there. So to answer your question, it took months and months and months to figure out what was wrong because traditional medicine, as we've heard this story many times, couldn't find it. I'd never been on a pharmaceutical in my life. And 6 months into this, I'm on like 6 pharmaceuticals. They told me it was all in my head. And as my hair's all falling out and I'm 90 pounds and I can't eat and I can't sleep, I can't finish a thought. Like, I mean, I'm deteriorating. And finally, I stumbled across functional medicine and integrative medicine accidentally. And come to find out after, going through those types of tests, I had toxic metal poisoning, many different metals and mercury mostly. But I mean, I was off the chart in all these. But then what had also happened is like the perfect storm. I also had like stage 3/4 adrenal fatigue. So, I mean, my hormones, my neurotransmitters, my metals, my whole body was like plugged into a light socket. I was a wreck. So it took a long time to pull out of that one.
All right, let's hold you right there in that wrecked position and we'll come back and pick up from there. But before we get there, let's define significance for this show. I call it doing things you love in places you love with people you love and creating something of value to others. So it's doing and it's giving. But to be a giver, you need excess capacity in your life. So what are your personal capacity building practices? Physical today, not from your wrecked time, today. Physical, mental, spiritual, financial, emotional. What do you do to increase your capacity so you can take great care of yourself and still have something left to give to others?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was such a lesson in not having capacity, is using every ounce of juice to the very end and then some. Like I was on borrowed time. I was borrowing against my capacity, and being in the negative, it's like being in debt. It was like physical energy debt. and then borrowing and borrowing against it, thinking, there'd never be a consequence. And so then I had no capacity. So my entire life really has pivoted to, it's all about capacity. And capacity to me means a couple different things. On one hand, it means space. So it's when I'm looking at space, it's even physical space. And so much of my mental, emotional, physical capacity is really connected to my environment, my physical space, if it's cluttered, if it's disorganized, that type of thing. So that's a big part of my capacity. So I'm pretty much minimalist. I don't like clutter. I don't like too many things because I feel that increases my capacity. So, on one hand, it's space. And then another capacity is what we have to offer. So for me, as far as practices, exercise, of course, is a big part of this, but that expends a lot of energy and capacity. So definitely my meditation practice, this is nothing new. It's kind of the same old, but my meditation practice is highly, revered, and I hold that sacred. My physical practices, my, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of those are first and foremost relational. And then business fills in the sand, it fills in everything else. And so it's really the flip-flop. But again, I nearly had to die to figure out that my whole life was about business and money and achievement and conquering and force and make things happen. And I had no capacity because, there wasn't anything left over.
Yeah, well, that's great that you've got that figured out and your life is different now. And we're going to go back to that deathbed moment when we get back from this commercial break. And I want to tell everyone about three things: a super cool company called Third Rock Essentials, how they can get a 20% discount for life, and how their February purchases will support a great big donation to our host of this show, WYTV7. Mr. Happy Living here. I love good things made by good people. That's why I love Third Rock Essentials, a company founded by a surfer with a PhD that believes all personal care products should be so safe you can eat them. I drink an ounce of chelated silver oxide supplement every day to strengthen my immune system. Third Rock Essentials has all natural sun care, skin care, and silver supplement products I trust. Check them out at happyliving.com and select Partners in Happy. You'll save 20% off all purchases every time you buy using promo code HAPPYLIVING. Plus, for every order placed during the month of February, I'll donate 20% to WYTV7. Okay, we're back, and this is the Something Significant show, and I'm Matt Gersper. Hey friends, do yourself a big health favor and check out our all-natural sun care, skin care, and silver supplement products. Go to happyliving.com, select Friends for Happy, and shop Third Rock Essentials. And now let's get back to my healthy, wealthy, rock star guest, Krisstina Wise. She's the creator of several multi-million-dollar businesses, including Good Life Realty, Good Life Mortgage, and The Paperless Agent. So Krisstina, in my second book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I explore the idea that big transformations and discovery of purpose often come from devastation, terrible illness, a near-death experience, some big crisis shakes your life. But I've used a happier way and created transformations in my life with inspiration. So take us back to that horrible time when your body was collapsing and you were out of your capacity and you had your near-death experience. And I think it was also a near financial death experience, as I've done my research on you. And talk about how did you work your way through that, and how did that change the purpose that you are meant to live? Take us there and tell us about it.
Yeah, so for me, again, it changed everything. And I actually turned my back on my industry. I left the real estate industry completely. Not only what I learned is that my entire life was toxic. I think heavy metals, It's funny how we get messages and lessons. It was no surprise reflecting later on that I nearly died from metal poisoning, like toxicity. My body was toxic, but my life was toxic. So that was in the way I lived it. Now I was unaware of that at the time, but then, when I had a year and a half to look at that. So part of that, I just left the industry, but I was really called to, it was, of course, one of my favorite quotes. It's for all creation is first an act of destruction. So for me, like this next level of creativity and inspiration and purpose, for me, I had to go through that destruction because I just had to break down every part of me, physically, emotionally, financially, mentally. Every piece of me completely broke down and broke apart. But I got to build up like block by block and rebuild the version of me that I knew I was meant to be.
So
But I had to.
when in that process you said you were called to, was there a moment? Was there a feeling that you said, okay, I've reached the bottom and I didn't die, and now I'm gonna? What was there something like that? You said I felt called to.
For me, how it happened was no. I mean, it was very scary time because what I was very certain of is that what I did before was attached to who I was before, and who I was completely different. So the future I was moving into was very different than the past. So I sold my companies. I moved away from that complete life. I changed almost all my relationships. I kid you not. It was very profound and beautiful and very heartbreaking and painful all at the same time. But I knew it's what I had to do. So what I was going to do next, I had no idea. It's not like I had this, and I knew it was, I knew I had to clean up the past, and then there was going to be a new future for me to walk into. I didn't know what it was. And I wouldn't say scared, but I was nervous in the sense like, what am I going to do if I haven't done what I've always done? I mean, that was my identity and my expertise. Like people clamored after me. And to walk away from that took a lot of courage. But I knew in my soul that that's not my purpose. It's not why I was put on this planet. I didn't know what that was yet, but I knew it wasn't that. So it's first the not that as opposed to the that. And ultimately what happened is I sat down, kind of a funny story, but I sat down to write a blog article. I was a big blogger back in the day when blogging was new, and newer. It's kind of part of how I built my business back then. But I sat down for the 5 people that had still were following me after a year and a half. Like one thing I really learned is like, oh, I'm not as important as I thought I was, because people moved on very quickly. It's like, oh, Krisstina, she's no far longer at the forefront. Like who's going to replace her? So anyway, I just thought we're really teeny tiny insignificance in the grand scheme of the universe, yet we need to find our own significance. So what happened is I sat down to just write the blog article. I never was inspired to write a book. My own narrative in my head would have been like, Krisstina, you can't write a book, but it just wasn't anywhere. And this was in 2014, 15, before there were people that wrote your books for you, really. So, but I sat down to write this blog article that I thought might be, a page long. And I wrote the next day and the next day and the next day. And what happened, I ended up sitting and writing for 30 days straight. And talk about inspiration, Matt, that I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I'd go sit at my office and I'd just start typing, and I'd whiteboard and do these different things. And I didn't have a book framework. I'd never written anything close. Like I said, it wasn't anywhere on the goals, the agenda. So come out of that, I'd hired an editor and got the book published, and ended up being this actually really good book, best-selling book. But the funny thing is that my entire background was real estate and all the things that you had mentioned. And I ended up writing a book about money. And I was surprised, as anybody else might be surprised, like, where did that come from? And so it's like this muse inside of me that used me to write this book about money. Because what happened with money is, like, publicly I was in real estate, but privately I studied money. I was about wealth creation. And so I was building like my net worth and learning all these things privately because I wanted to build wealth and have that whole separate side. Nobody knew that. My public identity was over here, but privately.
Yeah.
So what happened is kind of in that 2013, 2014 mess is that coming out of that, I realized that money matters more than anything. In my case, it saved my life. Had I not been a student of money and wealth and these different things, I wouldn't be alive today.
Yeah.
Because it took me just that year, it took me $250,000 cash, let alone over the next 3 or 4 years. Well, I mean, a lot of money that had I not had that, I literally wouldn't be alive today. So that was very like, whoa, thank God I was so, I learned those things and was, practiced and put, built some, some net worth. On the other hand, on my deathbed, I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about my identity. I didn't care about my accolades. I didn't care about my awards. I didn't care about my Range Rover, my lake house, fill in the blank. Granted, it was all cash and paid for, and it was, but I did not care about it.
Of course.
All I felt was guilt and shame and remorse that I was dying and hadn't lived yet. And all those sacrifices I made. I mean, I was just like, what I spent my entire life working and fighting for, that was the big fat lie. It's like, you mean my entire life was about that? And here I'm dying. And I'm realizing that none of that matters. And I sacrificed everything that does, including my own health, for the chase, so the kind of the paradox was money matters more than anything, but it's not about the money. So that sent me on this kind of this search, if you will, to try to reconcile what I meant by that, like this message that came to me. I wrote this book about money because I realized that there's so much that money does. And so when you're talking capacity, financial capacity is real. Financial wellness is real. And if we don't have financial capacity, it's very difficult to have other capacities. Because when we're month to month or paycheck to paycheck or just financial stress and anxiety all the time, it robs us of having the space and freedom that what might otherwise be pretty easy if we didn't have that, that running constantly.
So in this process, you discovered your purpose was to teach mainly women, but people in general, about money. Is that yes?
Yeah, so coming out of that was, so to answer your question, thank you for getting me back on track there. But that was like the big awareness is like, I look up to Mother You, I'm like, dude, who am I to be talking about money and finance? Like I'm this real estate queen, this mogul over here, like who am I? But that was the message. And like, no, you wrote this book. It's changing people's lives. Now your work and your purpose and everything you've learned today is to go stand into this and go teach millions of people how to manage their money so they can build financial significance to live significant, happy life. There's lots of other people teaching the other parts of life. Your job's to teach the money piece because it's equally important.
So what's interesting about that is the purpose is it's not only creating financial stability for yourself and your own life, which I'm sure you've been doing and continue to work on, but it's really tapping into that fourth element of significance, doing work that creates value for others. So tell us just a little bit about how creating value for others has brought joy and magic into your life. In other words, how does it personally feel when a masterclass or a podcast or a book helps others realize that they can work less, stress less, and have lots more wealth and health and happiness in their lives without having to go through devastation? So that's right. That's back to using inspiration to create transformation. So what kind of joy does creating value for others bring to you?
Well, it's again, when life's work equals purpose. I mean, it's the purpose. It's one of the significant reasons to get out of bed every day. Like jumping out of bed because there's lives to change. There are people to help. And then, so it's just when that is the energy that we get to share that energy and it comes back in the form of thank yous and you changed my life and my gosh, I wouldn't be here without you. That's the reward, that's part of the reward. So yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's what, I mean, I just feel so lucky that each day I get to show up and do my life's work and change people's lives. And then the ripple effect of changing one person's life ripples into, how that changes another. And I think that's why we're all here. And there's the give and there's the receive. And so also like it's that reciprocal nature that as we give, when we can receive the compensation, when we can receive the thank yous and accept that equally as much as we enjoy and love the sharing out.
Right on. Great stuff. Okay, let's wrap things up with the lightning round. I'll read one of my favorite quotes to you and then respond telling us what it means to you in about 30 seconds. So here we go. From Grandpa George in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. There's plenty of money out there. They print more of it every day.
So I would say that what that makes me think of is just abundance. And so when we're talking about money, like anything, there's really two different mindsets. There's the scarcity mindset and the abundance mindset. Most people live, and when it comes to money, scarcity, lack, and fear. When we can tap in, there's plenty, and there's a complete abundant universe, then we don't have to worry so much about it.
That's right. You and Grandpa Charlie on the same page. From Friedrich Nietzsche. You talked about this a little bit earlier. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star.
Yeah, but it's the desire to make sense of the chaos and turn the chaos into creation. But yeah, you take a bunch of jumbled string and then you can turn it into a kite or something. That's, again, the joy of life, is the problem solving, the creativity, the challenge, and overcoming challenge. So yeah, there's so much built into that.
Awesome. From my past, I don't know who's the author of this. Other people's opinion of you is none of your business.
Isn't that like one of the most important lessons of life, is that when we quit caring what other people think, a big part of what got me sick was the constant chase for other people's approval, that I needed to be more important and have more identity. And again, there was no end in sight. So the day that external validation didn't matter and just my life had meaning for its own meaning, that my lifestyle architecture and I got to design, that's when you're free. Yeah. That's what true freedom is when you don't care what other people think.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, from Goff. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Again, I couldn't agree more. When we can just get over the fear of failure, the fear of loss, the fear of not good enough, whatever the case is. And I'm just saying, I'm an example of that. When people say, hey, how would you describe yourself in different words? One of the first words that come up is bold. And it's like, I was bold and am bold to go out and follow my heart and lean in to uncertainty and not knowing. And we all know that. We know what that calling is. It's just choosing to be bold and move forward.
That's right. Okay, Krisstina, this has been awesome, but now our time's coming to an end. Would you just take a minute or two and share any parting remarks that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, my parting remark, I guess, with all of this is that when it comes to money, which obviously is what I teach, it's not about the chase. It's not about the money. It's about life and what I call lifestyle architecture. And so it's to understand that we need to know how much money is enough. How much does it cost to live our dream life, our good life, our happy life? What's included? It can be quantified. And then all the money goals and aspirations and strategies, business or otherwise, is all around how to create the money that allows us to live full, abundant, happy lives. And when we can make it not about the money, but about good living, happy living, it changes everything.
100%. Okay, folks, now I'm calling on you. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Krisstina Wise, please donate what you can to WYTV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Krisstina, it takes great courage to fight through illness and through financial devastation, and so much more fighting through both at the same time. I really admire your personal strength and resilience. And I love, love, love how you turned your battle into a personal success, and then even more by using it to help others discover success and happiness in their lives as they define it. Very good stuff, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to WYTV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep reaching ordinary people ready to create their own extraordinary lives. A special thank you to our sponsors for the entire month of February, Third Rock Essentials and Happy Living. Remember, I'll donate 20% of every purchase for the entire month of February to WYTV7. So tell all your friends too. Go to happyliving.com, select Friends of Happy, and shop Third Rock. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to websites and social media and all things Krisstina Wise. Find her, friend her, check out her Wealthy Life podcast, her free weekly millionaire masterclass, and her website at wealthywealthy.life. And buy her book, Falling for Money. It helps women rethink how they think about wealth. And from me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be happy. We do what we do on the Something Significant show to inspire you to live life to its fullest, to believe as I do that a better self is always possible today and every day for the rest of our lives. It's time for you to be bold. If you're dreaming about it, then get on with it, for it's there on your special path, the one to your dream, your unique and distinctive journey. That's where you'll discover the way to make your mark of significance on the world. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome, and this is the Something Significant Show. Mr. Happy Living here. I love entrepreneurs and artists and authors and innovators and people from every walk of life that have discovered their reason for being on this planet. As I define it, significance contains 4 elements: doing things you love, in places you love, with people you love, and creating something of value to others. Each week, I'll bring to you people that inspire me by living in their significance. It's fast, it's fun, and it's inspiring. I love hosting this show because I love inspiring others to make the most out of life. I hope I've inspired you to tune in every Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern on WYTV7. Until then, I'm Matt Gersper, and I'm wishing you every success in life that you can possibly imagine.